Got it. Nerds. Note the nerd point of this beginning. Selfies are a woman's best friend. Yeah. Makes everything better. Yeah. See, that way you gotta do the movie from that movie where they put So I typed in what the stuff we talked about. Yeah. So it's just kind of a...
No, it's a good guideline, and so I will follow wherever you go.
So we're getting just a little bit of pregame here. And making sure that everything is working on the Periscope. It is. The calm before the storm.
So people know we are recording the class, but only us. So if you cross in front of the lovely redheaded person here, you may end up on Periscope. It's live stream. And your voices may end up on there, and hopefully, is anybody absolutely, abjectly not okay with that? Okay, because there's a number of people who couldn't make it, and I wanted to, let them be able to sit in on the class.
We planned it. Couple of psychics, you just kind of figure it out.
Can't go wrong with red and black.
That, and you can't do a lecture with Michelle Belanger and show up looking like a soccer mom. So you gotta up your cool. No one's screaming yet. Nope.
Yeah, that'll come later.
That'll come later.
Because I'm seriously gonna have more people. Yeah, where it's like I'm trying to I want to ideally open the space up to anything and everything, like any of these things that have been lost. And keep in mind, ancient deities. Yeah, so.
And some are angry.
Yeah. So I do not know what to expect ultimately with what I'm trying to do with it, but we'll see. Well, because there's no predicting what'll come through. Yeah, I live there. That'll be fun. I've designed it so all the crazy will be focused in one spot.
Anything left over, we'll just get rid of it and make karaoke.
Yeah, true enough.
That's actually, that's going to change. I've just been fidgeting with my coffee, so it should get a little steadier on there soon.
Because they can post the comments and stuff, and they heart it, and little hearts float up. And, yeah. Yeah, I did like a little one of just Jessica and her course. 500 people on there. No, it's, wow. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Audio recording is totally permitted. And we've already gotten people who are okay with their voice. Yeah, that goes out to anybody else. If you want to record the class, I am totally okay with that. Audio recording, whatever. Feel free. Does not bother me.
Thanks. Las Vegas.
I always give people an extra 5 minutes.
You're so nice.
Only because I used to be. I am by nature a type A person. Like that kind of aggressively
Convocation.
hard to ever live with type A person, where it's like if it is not my way, it does not work on time, then just bad. And the only way I found to get around being that way was just meh. No expectations.
It'll be
If
like
I
a
have
third
no
result,
expectations, I cannot be disappointed. And therefore, the angry type A personality doesn't like where it's like.
I think it's just type mom personality.
The class hasn't quite gotten started yet, which is why there's not actually very much happening yet, except let's listen to the presenters and have a very
requiring everybody to absolutely dance on a schedule because
someone from Russia.
that's exciting. Not gonna happen.
We've got several countries represented on Periscope. Someone from Russia, as well as a bunch of people around the US.
Like a chocolate cookie picture? You said you could sit on cookies.
No.
Okay, I heard
there are no cookies. You did?
Yeah,
Oh.
maybe I'm just thinking about the warm, wonderful gooey chocolate chip walnut cookies that they have.
Somebody's like projecting.
Which somebody was kind enough to give me one already.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Oh, wow. And Spain.
Okay. I have no idea.
I'm so bad about
Now
that.
people are gonna start putting like.
I know. We're talking about they have to sit around like a camera for the next while. Such sacrifices.
See, now they're talking about cookies too.
The cookies are not just me. And they're warm. And like really like.
This one, how much
Yeah.
It's like a class on cookie appreciation. That would be the best class ever.
I should have brought Bob to like sacrifice my my
Oh,
brownie.
Bob. Maybe he could come to the ritual.
He's good. Actually, Bob would be a great thing post-ritual to kind of bring people back to a good spot. Yeah.
Oh, Bob.
With his
Bob had a
great
higher
cheese and
purpose.
raspberry guts. All right, looks like I think we're about ready. A couple of stragglers. On the spot.
Must be 205, must be the magic.
Navigate.
Well, yeah, it's kind of hard to get past it right now.
Yeah. Since we've had a few more people, is anyone abjectly not okay with the classes being live streamed? The camera is aimed at us, but if you are asking questions or talking, your voices may end up on that. If anybody is abjectly not okay with that, let me know now.
Was that a thumbs up or a? Oh my
That,
God,
that was a
help me.
talking with hands. Okay. 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 Since we had, I think we have everybody.
I just demand that you delete anything but bad.
Realistically, I know how the microphone works. Questions in the audience probably won't be heard well anyway, so we'll probably restate them if I remember to do intelligent things like that.
So if you've got a cell phone, put it on silent. I just put mine on silent a little bit ago. Because I mean, sure, you got to check, make sure, you know, things aren't going crazy somewhere else. But you know, just put your phones on silent. So this class is where psychic abilities and magic collide. Last year, Michelle and I were hanging out, and we thought it'd be fun to do a class together. So that's how this class came about. I'm Ellen Dugan. This is Michelle Belanger. And there's a couple of rules for this lecture. Number one, raise your hand. Be polite. You know all those things your mom taught you? If you keep raising your hand again and again, I'll be like, yeah, I see it, put your hand down. So, you know, let everybody have a chance to ask a question or, you know, try to keep the rambling comments to a minimum because, you know, we're probably going to ramble a little bit anyway. So that way we can keep this tight and everybody can get out of the lecture what they wanted and everybody can learn something new. Okay?
She's a witch who's psychic. I do magic. I'm a psychic who does magic, and it's always astounded me how we tend to compartmentalize things. So in the psychic and paranormal community, especially 10 years ago, the very idea that there might be pagans or witches who would get involved in that was like, you know, people would get their backs up about it. And I would move from the paranormal community into the pagan community and have folks think that, you know, psychics were a different breed than people who were practicing magic. And the two things intersect so completely that, you know, in talking with Ellen just about some of our experiences with spirits, and just doing house cleanings, just doing spells, there's so much intersectional space between these two abilities that kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
For me, I started out doing professional psychic readings back in the 80s in St. Louis when they do them at a Holiday Inn, and people would put 8-foot neon orange banners above themselves saying the amazing so-and-so. People put crystal balls on their table. They wore turbans. And there sat this obnoxious 25-year-old who was like, sit down, we'll talk. And people got very upset if there wasn't a prop in front of them. They didn't like the fact that this 25-year-old could sit there and read them and pick up names and tell them what was going on with their life. But if I had tarot cards in front of me, everybody calmed down. That's how I learned to read tarot. I taught myself. But if you want to learn how to do psychic readings, just do a psychic fair once for the general public. And as time went on, as the years went by, I started lecturing on witchcraft, which was pretty much forbidden at the time. So, here I am in the Midwest doing lectures on witchcraft at a psychic fair. But when I got more into the pagan community, when I was first published, I was very surprised at how people were, oh, you're psychic too? That would kind of throw them off. It was like you couldn't do both. So a few years later, after I'd written a couple books, I thought, you know what, I think I wanted to write a book about how you can take your witchcraft and take your psychic abilities and combine them, because it just turns the volume up. And to be honest, the most powerful witches, not that I'm saying I'm so powerful, but the most powerful witches, the most powerful magicians I have ever known in my life were gifted psychics. And psychic ability is natural. I hounded on this last year. Everybody who's in this class remembers. But the truth is, everybody has psychic abilities to some degree. But if you take your magic and you add the psychic abilities you have, you're opening up whole new worlds.
I mean, a lot of the things that limit us are the language and our perception of what the language means. You say psychic and you think about somebody who can see the future, has visions, or does what I did on Paranormal State, walk around a house and like, I feel like somebody died over in that room. Why is there a hand on the wall behind me? Ah! And we think of magic, and magic generally, when we think about it, involves some tools, some structured action of trying to make things happen. But if you're calling up spirits and you have no capacity whatsoever to perceive them, and we tend to lump that ability to perceive spirits and communicate with them, that's a psychic ability, but they're all just labels. And honestly, most of what we do with magical paths and tradition, we are honing our ability to perceive the non-physical realms, non-ordinary reality. That's exactly where a psychic lives. It's just different ways in which we talk about the abilities. And in some cases, different ways in which we will tap into them, and different ways that we structure our experience of them. But again, the overlap is significant, and by the end of this conversation, as we talk, I think you're really going to find that we're talking about the exact same things. They just have different names, and sometimes those names make different communities more comfortable with them than others.
I have a good example. One of the things I do, it's kind of a nasty little trick I play on people in my coven when they're getting initiated, is I have a very large space in my backyard, and it's all private behind privacy fences and lots of gardens. And I tell them, okay, stay in the house. Now I am going to cast a circle, maybe. And then I want you to come out here and tell me where it's at, or if it's at. Is there one there? And depending on that witch's psychic perceptions, their reactions are a riot. I've had some people walk up and like stop dead, and then like scoot around and scoot around and scoot all the way around, and then it's like a mine, and they're in the box, and the whole thing. And I've had other people walk out and go, oh, I don't feel it. I don't think you cast one. And I've had people go out and go, I'm seeing a different kind of energy. Okay, so think about how they describe their experiences. The person who stops dead and is literally sensing their way around, okay, well, they're clairsentient, they're an empath. The person who walks out and goes, oh, it looks different, I kind of see maybe some energy over there, that's someone who's more clairvoyant. The person who walks out and goes, you don't even cast one. Did you bring wine? That's intuitive, because they just knew. So again, they're all witches, but they were all using different aspects of their psychic ability. Yet all of those people, if you asked them if they were psychic, they'd go, no, I'm a witch. But again, it's all the same thing.
I have so many people come up to me, because those words, those labels are so significant. I'll have folks ask me, I'm not psychic, but what do you think about this experience? Like, the label has so much importance that while they are having profound experiences, they don't want to put it under that label, because they don't want to think that they're special, or they're not chip coffee or whatever. And it's funny, in the paranormal community, people who will do essentially magic, but they would never ever call themselves witches, or hell, they wouldn't even call it magic. But pretty much every house clearing they do is essentially a magical spell. To be fair, most prayers people do are magical spells. Bells, whistles, candles, and all of it. But again, language is what trips up our understanding of the nuts and bolts of it.
got distracted by the sound of the gremlins coming through the wall.
Actually, we get to clearing and space and stuff, and we can just move easily into that. So.
Yes, I made an outline.
One of the trying to come up when we were debating with the class, like where are some of the really key points that these abilities intersect in practices that you'd be like going out into the world and probably doing, or you've probably done already. And one of the big ones is clearing space, clearing a house, clearing your buddy's apartment where they did something untoward and it just everything went fuck-o-bazoo.
Oh God, I thought you were still talking. I'm sorry. I was like, okay.
I dropped an F-bomb already, so
that's okay. I'm
up
safe now. I can say
before
whatever.
noon, it gets a little blurry.
All right. So for clearing space with witches, I always find it very interesting. They're like, yeah, I think there might be something negative in the house, and I need to do a cleansing. And I'm like, okay, well, could you call someone? I'm like, hello, you're a witch. You should be able to do this yourself. Well, how will I know? I said, well, you are going to have, you take them through the whole thing. With me, it's pretty simple. Hit the 4 elements, some salt for, earth, some incense for air, candlelight for fire, a little water for, water. Get around, hit it all, get the windows, get the doorways, do the whole shebang, then you're done. Well, how will I know? Well, you're going to see, you're going to hear, you're going to feel, or you're going to know. It's going to be an inner thing. But it's, again, it's not much different than, let's say, a hardcore Catholic going through the house with, holy water and a crucifix or whatever, Statue of Mary or whatever. I don't know what Catholic.
St. Benedict medals.
Thank you.
They use
but
a lot
I mean,
of
it's
those.
the same thing. They're going through and when it's all done, there's usually a difference in the air. You can feel it. And, it's important that people figure out, it doesn't matter what terminology you're using, it's basically the same thing. But it all comes down to your perception. And some people say, oh, I smell roses when the thing is done. I think that's supposed to be like the Virgin Mary's there or something. But I've also heard people say, no, that's the hand of the goddess. Okay, well, great mother, great mother. So again, just think of the language that's being used. It's very similar. It's the same thing. And if you have a problem with something in your house, well, number one, I'd ask you, what the hell did you do? Number two, are you playing around with the Ouija board? And I'm not talking about a consecrated spirit board. I'm talking about the Ouija board you bought from Toys R Us. Every time I've ever been called in to investigate a haunted house, it's 99% of the time because somebody was jacking around with a Ouija board and then they don't know what to do with what they call it. You open a door, it's opening a portal, you're letting stuff in. Most people love the idea of magic. Very few people actually have the balls to follow through. So if you get called in to clean something up, you're going to have to be relying on your craft as a witch and your psychic abilities and experiences to let you know when the job is done. So you're going to have to combine.
Experientially, one of the main differences is we view witchcraft as part of a religious belief, at which point faith can play a part of your ability to assess stuff. If you do the steps that you've learned in your Scott Cunningham book of how to do this thing, or these days your Christopher Penczak book, because really, he is the new Scott Cunningham and way cooler.
He said he's new to Rebellion too. He did. That's what he says.
I like her way more than I like her. Anyway. But if you do all your steps, then you have faith that you've done what you were supposed to do, so it should work. And from the psychic side, they don't frame that as a religious belief. They don't frame that as something that you have faith. It's an ability, and so it is perceived as something that has a level of skill that you develop. Now, that is not to say, in any way, shape, or form, understanding that we're kind of using similar words for two different words for similar things. There is skill in our witchcraft. There is learning that needs to go in our witchcraft. And a part of developing yourself as a practitioner of magic is moving past I'm going to follow the cookbook recipe of how you do this, to getting that intuitive level of, I feel what it is like when it works. And in a different perspective, that's honing your psychic abilities. It's your witchy intuition, it's whatever you want to call it, don't worry about the words. It's that feeling you have when you walk into a room where two people have been arguing and they're not arguing anymore, they're not even in the room anymore, but you still feel something's not right. Doesn't really matter what word you give that. there is some sense that you have that is speaking to you. In Magick, we have a framework for how that sense impacts you and the world around you, ethical guidelines for it, and in ways in which you might be able to, talk to your god or goddess and give it a boost. Psychics can be from any and every religion, often are, and don't always have that neat framework. Don't always have a neat answer for, like, why is this happening to me? Over on the witch side, your goddess is guiding you toward a thing. Over here, it's like, yep, I got nothing. I'm just picking this thing up, and what the hell am I supposed to do with it?
I mean, at the end of the day, it all comes down to what you're going to do with what you have. Michelle was talking before about taking things and adding your own flair to it. I love books. I write books. I've written 20 now. I mean, I'm always writing books. I write spells all the time. That's why I'm writing fiction now. I'm going to take some time off from writing spells. But I mean, I've written books for, 13 years now. Oh, God, that's a long time. But the point is that I tell people all the time when I teach my classes, take the spell in the book and then make it your own. Because when you add your own flair to that spell, if you've got 6 witches doing the same spell, but one witch goes, well, okay, I live in the Midwest and I have to deal with this. And, for the element of water for me is going to be the local river because it's right there. And, well, this doesn't quite work for me, but this works for me. They say burn a black candle, but purple's my power color. I'm going with purple. Guess whose spell is going to be actually more powerful? The person who went, okay, on page 35, I have to do this. Or the person who went, all right, I got this. Let's get to work. I'm going to put my own spin on things. The person who personalized it, the person who adapts, improvise, adapt, and overcome is not just for the Marines. It's for magical practitioners as well as psychic practitioners. Because you are going to be confronted with things as a witch and or a psychic or a magician that most people don't even know is there. And so you're going to have to learn to think on your feet. How do I deal? What do I do? With a lot of stuff, it's minor things. People are always terrified they're going to run into some, big, hairy, monster, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But the thing is, most of this stuff, it's just kind of floating around, and it happens to come through, and because you've been working on your, sensitivity to magic and the psychic realms for years and years, you're going to notice. And when this comes up, you don't always have to drag out the bell book and the candle. Sometimes you just kind of square your shoulders and go, listen, do you really want to mess with me, or do you want to go along and play with the other ones? And most times, you're gone, because you're holding your ground and you're standing firm. It's no different than dealing with a toddler who's having a tantrum. Do you want to go back? No. Okay, that's it. It's just like, this is me, this is my space, you're out. I'm bigger, I'm better than you're. Go. So people need to be aware that not everything requires a full-out ritual. Sometimes it's just as easy as standing your ground, being confident in who you are, whether that's witch, magician, or psychic, knowing your abilities. And how do we learn what our abilities are? We practice.
Yeah.
We practice a lot. And then you can send things on their way with a minimum of fuss.
Now, she covered it, but I'm going to frame it in some different language as well. A lot of people who are psychic don't think that they are and will resist the label because their abilities aren't like what they've seen on TV or read in a book. And frankly, everybody's abilities are different. They will be different from day to day. Your level of sensitivity can change based on where you're at, who you're with, whether you've had a good sleep the night before. Everybody's perceptions speak to them in a different way. Your brain is wired to work with the world through the 5 physical senses. Your psychic abilities will present to you in that sense, generally speaking, that is your primary sense, the way in which you are best at perceiving the world. So if you are a very visual person, the way that your brain will attempt to translate these non-physical perceptions is to give it to you in things that seem like imagery. There's often a fair amount of synesthesia. For myself, I'm visual but also tactile. So it's often these images but also feelings, sensations, and often a fair amount of emotion with that too. But I know a guy, he's a professional DJ. He comes to the Kep Gather off and on every year, and mostly things present to him as sound and scent. Scent is like his secondary thing. The practice is helpful because it lets you get an idea of how these things do present to you. Just because the way you're perceiving it is different from the way you read about how those perceptions are supposed to be in a book, or even they're different from the other person in the room who's sensing it. Like, if you are getting images and that person is getting emotions, and you talk about what it is you're picking up, and you find that you're both essentially getting the same message, just in a different type of format, you're all having psychic experiences.
Well, I did a lecture last year about finding your psychic abilities. I told people, hey, if you have a personal question, see me after class. Okay. It took me an hour and a half to get from that part of the lobby to this part of the lobby, and it was the same question over and over, and it was actually hysterical. Now, I went like this. So, okay, I listened to what they said, but you know, I don't see. And the whole point of the class was, how do you describe your psychic experiences? What words do you use? I just knew, I felt, I heard, or I saw. And no, I'm different. And this maybe the person had said, oh, you know, I had this, or I saw this vision, and there was like a kid ran out the street, and I was able to stop him, and then I was outside, and on it goes. And I said, okay, well, you just described that you saw. That's clairvoyance. Oh,
yeah. See, about
two steps.
We let ourselves get
Listen, I'm totally
different,
different. But I saw a car accident. I'm like, oh God, you saw. You know, so I mean, again, look at how you describe it. Everyone has psychic abilities. They can be clairvoyance, which is seeing visions or physically seeing. There's clairaudience, where you hear with your inner ear. The joke about the little voices just talk to me is, actually, don't ever do that to a clairaudient, because they will pull stuff out of your head that you didn't even think about. The best clairaudience are the people that read between the lines. They're good therapists. They're good lawyers, because they hear what's not spoken but what is meant. That's a clairaudient.
If
They
you're really
hear
not
things
lucky,
that are
you
going on.
hear the music that's playing.
Yeah, they hear music, or they hear a song stuck in their head all day, and somehow it has meaning. Or they turn on the radio, it's like, oh, that's why you've been on, or you know, little things like that. Then there's the clairsentience, which people get that screwed up with clairtangency. Clairsentience are empaths. Deanna Troy does not need apply here. They're empaths. They get that psychic feeling, but that's feeling with emotions, not feeling with your fingers. Clairtangency is literally picking up an object and reading it. And once you've touched it, that kicks into something else, and then you see, you hear, you know, or you feel. So reading an object by touch, that's clairtangency. Psychometry is the act. Clairtangency is the ability. So people go, oh my God, I am totally psychometric. I'm like, no, you're clairtangent. But again, it all starts from that. It's just a springboard, and people have to understand, just because someone hears or someone sees or someone feels or someone knows, and psychic intuitives are the biggest pain in the ass I've ever met in my life. The technical term for an intuitive is claircognizant. It's cognizant. It just pops in their head. And you know why they're annoying? Because a clairvoyant can envision every horrible thing that can happen. A clairsentient can just feel, and they're going to have all these emotions they're going to work through. And then the intuitive goes, oh, no, I just know. They just know everything. So if you find yourself saying, I just knew, it'll be fine, I just know, don't worry, it's fine, I just know. That's an intuitive. They just know. So people who think, oh no, I'm not psychic. The best doctors, the best cops, the best nurses, the best police officers, the best men and women in the military are very intuitive. They just know where to be. Oh, that's not psychic. Yes, it is.
Well, and you've got now this whole toolkit of neat words and labels that you can give yourself, and also understand that you need to give yourself permission to, if you fit in one of those boxes, you are not exclusive to that box.
Mixed bag of abilities.
Psychic stuff, it's much more a continuum. Mm-hmm. And so there's many shades of ability, many flavors of psychic, kind of like Baskin Robbins. And there are no single person is going to be exactly this one or that one or exactly like everybody else. We are all very different. There is so much psychology wound up in the way in which we perceive. It's actually one of the main reasons psychic abilities are so very hard to test in a laboratory setting, because ruling out all of the variables that are in between the person's ears, their interpretation of their perceptions. I mean, first there's the raw ability to perceive anything in the first place. Then there is the filter through which those perceptions are going in here. And then the next difficult part is articulating this thing that has no freaking language that really fits it. So from this point of the raw thing that is being perceived to the person trying to report what they're perceiving, it's gone through at least 3 steps of filters and doesn't necessarily look the same for each person. One of the handy things, especially with magic, when you are doing magic, doing ritual, especially doing ritual with a group, you get the opportunity with a group of people, once you're done, to talk about what you felt, what you perceived, and what you think happened. And I mean, I've been in many group rituals, public group rituals, and in private rituals with my group of people, and it is incredibly validating. And one of the best learning experiences is anybody who's working with any kind of psychic ability is to have engaged in things that are not physical, and then to find that everybody in the room had a shared experience about that thing to some degree or another. Once we can sit down, talk about it, and find above and beyond our individual perceptions that somewhere we're all actually talking about an elephant. And I mean blind man and the elephant, where, you know, I might be grabbing the trunk, he might be grabbing the tail, somebody's hugging the leg, and in the end, once we are able to dialogue about it, we realize that, in fact, we have all legitimately had some perception of that elephant.
So, any questions on what we've talked about so far? Any dares to raise your hand? Oh, there's one. Okay.
The empath.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're talking about the labels, and that's difficult because people will always say, well, you label yourself, you won't say that you're psychic, but yet you read cards and you feel people's diseases and you just say things. You said that, so is an empath part of the psychic ability?
Yeah, it's a great big umbrella of stuff. Empath, they are people who tune in more to emotion than anything else. And often not exclusively, but emotions are loud. And like, you know, the thing about most people who, when they find the word empath and that is the label that they feel it fits for them, the biggest thing about folks who identify as empaths, when you pick up those emotions, it's in you. And you are experiencing those emotions as much as you are reading them from other people. And the hard part at first, realizing that it's an ability at all, is realizing that those are things coming from outside of you. I remember I'm very empathic among the clusterfuck of other abilities that I've got. And the hardest thing was walking down the hallway in high school. You know, everybody's a damn emotional stew. You know, adolescence in full gear for everybody. And I've got my own shit in my head, and I'm walking down and basically running the gauntlet of everybody else's stuff, and each person I walk by or got bumped into, because at least for me, physical contact suddenly makes everything really much louder. And you're ping-ponging all over the place. And the biggest learning thing for me was trying to figure out inside voice or outside voice. Like, where is it coming from? And first finding where your boundaries are at all. It makes empathy incredibly challenging.
There's another question from Periscope about how you can tell whether you're an empath or if you might have some kind of disorder, like maybe you're bipolar and it just feels like empathy.
First off, first thing you have to know about empaths are psychic. It's a psychic feeling, but people misunderstand the word feeling. You're picking up emotions. Psychic empaths don't. They say, "Oh, I need to shield," but they don't shield. Most people would pull in tight and keep it contained. An empath goes, "I gotta make a big shield," and what you're doing is you're throwing a net, and then you pull that in because you know if you can scan what's going on in the room, you can be prepared. All right, if you know what's going on, if that person's going to be mad, ooh, I can shield from him because he's about to lose his shit. Or, oh, she's stressed out, ooh, the boss is mad. You're constantly throwing out this ability to sense the area around you to be safe. What you need to do is stop casting that net out and pull it in. And understand a psychic empath or a claircognizant? No, it's claircognizant. I should know my own damn phrase. No. Clairsentient. There we go. I'm good. Clairsentient. There's clairsense. That's the nose. Clairsentient is the empath. You are always on. You're always on. And if you really want to find out whether or not you have empathic ability or just crazy, next time you go to the hospital, Go in cool. Don't be all loaded up with moonstones and silver. That's the worst thing you can do. And walk down the hall and see what you pick up.
Yeah.
If you get depressed, if you notice, oh God, me, as you're going down the hall, see what you pick up. And just pay attention. Notice how you are affected by other people's emotions in the room.
To
That's
learn,
a thing you can do.
the first step for anybody learning any aspect of their psychic landscape is to spend a lot of time learning what is in between their ears. Like, spend some time, know thyself. It's not just a pretty phrase over a door. Spend some time to get to know how you function. Understand what situations make you emotional, whether or not you have triggers, and really journal. I'm a huge person about keeping some records so that you can go back and look to see, especially like with people who are bipolar, there are really clear cycles. And they might not be clear immediately, but over long periods of time, you'll find that, like, December, around that time every year, there's just always a crash. Know yourself, understand how you work, get a really solid idea of that. If you have a good support system, get their input. Talk with people that you trust and say, I'm feeling this thing. Do you think that it might be coming from here, or have you noticed that I seem to be somebody who just kind of like, goes all over the place? If you're really worried that you're actually bipolar as opposed to empathic, there are these things called therapists and psychologists. And while it is intimidating as a psychic person or a magically inclined person, or honestly anybody who involves themselves in beliefs that are different from mainstream, while it is intimidating to go to someone and say, I'm hearing voices in my head, no, not those voices, and that's not the problem. If you shop around, and I know that certain states and certain groups will maintain lists of open-minded psychologists and therapists who do understand that sometimes that there is a legitimacy to psychic experiences and to magical experiences, and can also speak to the other aspect of it. Because I will tell a story. One of my students from Housekeeper I apologize. This is relevant because you can be psychic and also have severe mental issues. He was rapid cycling bipolar. Getting involved in the house helped him get very, very stable to the point where he was really sure he didn't need to be on his meds anymore. He did not tell us this. About 6 months pass. He was incredibly, not just empathic, but could perceive spirits really amazingly well. He had enough presence of mind to realize that the 6-foot giant chicken in his closet that was haunting him at night was probably not a legitimate psychic experience, at which point he sort of tapped out and asked for help. And while he was having incredibly realistic, overwhelming hallucinatory experiences, which were genuinely hallucinatory experiences, part of his rapid cycling bipolar disorder, he was also and could also still have mediumship experiences, to the point where once we had his mom come down and take him back and deal with things, and ultimately he was hospitalized. And even his mom was so aware of his mediumship abilities when he was complaining about all the things that he was seeing and the voices he was hearing. She's like, well, honey, how do you know that they're not dead? He's like, at this point, I just need them to shut up. And that's an important thing that I learned in psychology and in college. If it's interfering with your ability to function, no matter what it is, even if it's legitimate, it's a problem. So it needs to be addressed. So if you're so psychic that you can't function, then you need to find some way to step that back and find your balance. And it may not be bipolar, but you still need to deal with that shit.
Okay, this lady back here got her hand up. Yes, ma'am.
I never consider myself clairtangent because even through magic, I can't really grab a stone and tell you what it does or anything else like that. But I can go into a house and put my hand on it and read it and connect with the spirits there. Is that clairtangents, or what?
If your other psychic abilities kick off by touch, if touching something kicks everything else off, That's claritangency. Claritangency is a starting point. Okay, just because you can't tell I can't tell what a stone is by looking. I'm like, what's this? I have to, unless it's purple. That's an amethyst. Otherwise, I don't know. You know, but I mean, if you're touching like a house and that kicks off your other psychic abilities, that is claritangency. Claritangency opens the door for you to see, hear, feel, or know the information.
It only seems to happen when I'm using my mediumship abilities inside a house.
Look,
I can't do it with other objects.
well, there's psychic sensitives and there's mediums. They're not always the same thing. A medium could be a sensitive is not always a medium. It's not always the same.
Here's why I put it on a continuum. I do a class called Psychic Blind Man's Bluff, where I blindfold people, the person goes in the middle, and the game is try to sense where all the people are standing after I've spun you around a bit and they've gone and stood in different places. We ended up doing it outside when you're at Housekeepers Gather, and there was this, you know, lovely crunchy granola, like hippie pagan chick among all the vampires, and she was somebody's partner. She was wonderful, and she could not pick out any person in the circle. But if you paid attention when we were outside, she picked out every damn tree in the courtyard, like just zeroed in on it. And one of the things is we assume that just because we can't sense one thing, or first of all, we assume that if we can sense one thing, we should be able to sense all of it. And no, some people, you're just tuned to something different. There's something about the way the energy is held in a house that you are more sensitive to than, say, you know, walking down the street or, you know, hugging a lamp pole. And that doesn't necessarily mean that there's anything wrong with you. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have the capacity to cultivate, I pick up a stone and I get a reading off of it. I can't. Like, you'd think with the way I pick up, stones just do not speak to me. They do not give a shit.
Think of it this way. Being a psychic, and everybody has psychic abilities, it's like a graph, okay? So you've got the big five. See, hear, know, feel, and touch. Okay, those are the big five. Every day, we go like this.
Yeah,
I tend to be clairvoyant, a little empathic, but my claritangency is my strongest thing. When I would do readings back in the day, if I had a tough customer, I would say, is it okay if I hold your hand? The second I touch him, I'm in, because that kicks everything else off. So for me, claritangency tends to be at the top. But I'm terrible at clairaudience. The whole psychic hearing thing, for me. It doesn't, I can hardly ever do it. But there are some days when I hear something really loud, it's like, oh shit, I gotta pay attention to that. Everybody is like this all the time. And your abilities change, and they grow, and they develop. And things are going to change for you. And just because it works, like she said, in the house, it doesn't work maybe because I can't identify a rock, doesn't mean it's not psychic ability. Everybody's different. Everything changes. Everything is in flux with psychic abilities all the time. That's what makes it challenging when you try to read and study up on this. Everybody's got a different term for the abilities, and a lot of people get it wrong, which makes me crazy. Virgo. Makes me crazy when they get the terms wrong. But the thing is that the only person who can tell you if you're psychic isn't Michelle. It's not me. It's you. It's you. It's your experiences. Your experiences count. You don't know whether or not you've got an ability unless you've had the experience to start with. The experience makes you go, oh, okay, I just picked up information by touching something. Okay, that was different. That's how you understand that you've got this going, by having the experience first. Then you figure out what the ability is. And that takes time. Journaling, note-keeping, paying attention.
Yeah,
and being very, very honest. Oh, this one time I had this dream about my cousin. No. It's not, oh, this one time. If any sentence you say starts with that, that doesn't count. Okay, I saw somebody with a hand up over here. Where was they?
The gent back there.
So, for you, how did you learn to separate the voices, emotions from other people and yourself?
I learned the hard way. For me, doing psychic fairs was like a really good training ground. And I was about 25 doing a psychic fair, and I was holding somebody's hand doing a reading, and they had a really bad leg, and they got up and walked away, and I went to go use the restroom. And there was a lady there, which is an RN, and she was doing like hands-on like massage therapy and stuff, and I literally was limping to the bathroom. I was like, oh my God. And I walked in the bathroom, and I came out of the stall, and she was there doing this number to me. You. And I was like, what? And she goes into like this thing. I thought she was going to like ninja kick me. And she starts pulling energy off of me, and she's like, you moron. You cannot take on all these physical ailments. Are you insane? So I mean, I'm like, there's a 50-year-old ripping 25-year-old me a new one, saying you can't do this, you can't do this. And I thought, well, I better start studying up because this sounds like I'm screwing up. Trial and error is a lot of it. You do it, you go, oh, that was dumb, I'm doing that again. And the best people go, I'm going to remember that and then not do it again. Trial and error.
For me, I once I sussed out, okay, I grew up in a family where psychic was okay, but like the idea of energy was back then, like I had to go digging through shit to find out that there was this sort of like unified field theory of like how this stuff is passing around. Like there's some force that we're picking up. So what I did when I was in high school, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, I would go to the mall where there were a lot of people, where once I realized that if I was in a crowd, I was sometimes hearing what was not people's voices, but was their energy. And the first job I had, I ended up buying my first leather jacket. And I associated the leather jacket, like consciously made that the armor that I put on. Like that was my way of shielding. And so I spent time like putting the armor on and feeling what it felt like to have stuff blocked out, taking it off, and just like walking, you know, naked, psychically through the mall at Christmas time and going, okay. And then practicing the levels of shielding that I had to maintain to go, okay, at what point does it now get quiet in my head? And just figuring out.
And that's different for everybody. Yeah. So you have to, you know, you can say, hey, I'm going to try that. That's great. It's going to be different for you. For empaths, pull that stuff in. Don't cast it out. Pull it in tighter, okay? You want your energetic shield to be about that far from your chest. I mean, you want it close because you don't need to sense everybody else's stuff. You're going to pick it up anyway. You're going to want to keep it close because anything that you don't want to hear should be really big to get through to you. So keep it close.
Well, again, there are always exceptions to rules. One of the things that I have observed with many of the empaths that I know and have worked with, they are often incredibly giving people, people who are driven to connect to others on just a fundamental psychological level. There's an impulse to like reach out and heal because on some profound level they're sensitive to everybody else's pain, and those people's pain becomes their pain. And there's this need to just make that pain go away.
They're fixers.
And I mean, my mom was an empath, and bless her heart, and I mean that in all the southern sort of way, she could not learn how to shield. Her answer was to move out to bumfuck East Bugaha. I mean, like, when I had to go visit her in Texas, you went down to this, you flew into Dallas, you drove two freaking hours to this tiny town called St. Joe, and then it was 6 miles down the country road, and then it was 4 miles down the dirt road. And that was her only way of dealing with blocking things like that out. Not necessarily functional for most folks.
So there's a question from Periscope again. If you have a child that you think is sensitive.
Oh, here we go.
This is what you would do.
You're a mom.
And hang on, jacket's coming on. One of my biggest pet peeves is people who walk up to me with a clearly sensitive or psychic child, and they think that this child is going to have all the answers to all their problems. Number one rule, if you think your child is psychic, they are. If you think they're sensitive, of course they are. Kids don't have to know magic is real. They don't have to know fairies are in the garden. If they say, you know, Grandma talked to me last night and Grandma's been dead for 3 years, Grandma probably talked to them last night. The trick is treat them as a normal child. Don't you go, oh, you're psychic, we're going to do this. And treat them like a normal kid. Be there for them. Be open-minded. If they say, you know, I saw this and it really scared me, say, okay, well, let's talk about it. Treat them like a normal kid. Be a good parent. That is the best thing you can do for any child who's developing or displaying psychic abilities. Treat it like it's normal. I raised 3 children to be responsible adults. If I can survive the wedding of my daughters, which is coming up very soon, we'll be expanding the family here. But I mean, if you treat them like they're normal and this is an everyday thing, they go, oh, okay, cool. Or you get your daughter who calls you and goes, yeah, I'm at work and I see ghosts. And I'm like, well, you know, your mom's a medium. Are you really surprised? She's like, well, what do I do? I said, okay, we can do this and this. Okay, thanks, Mom. It was a 10-minute conversation.
Well, and the what do I do? Like, that, for TV, movies, books have all told us, you have this gift. You now must go forth and do something with it. And it's Stephen King's The Dead Zone. I see the future, therefore I must end up like I have this,
I am a psychic,
this
therefore
great
I'm a
imperative
supper.
to do stuff. Or I pick things up from people, and God help them, they've watched Teresa Caputo, so they totally think that because they have sensitivity, they should walk up to every Tom, Dick, and Harry, Jane, Mary, and Sue on the street and go, hey, I see this color in your aura, and it's like this thing, and Spirit is telling me that I need to tell you this.
No. Don't psychic bomb
Would you
people, it's
walk
rude.
up to them and say, your fly's unzipped, I noticed. Like, there's a certain level of etiquette that you should actually follow, and don't think that simply because you have the ability, don't worry about what you're supposed to do with it.
You're going to have enough
When you're
people
still
come to
working
you
out how the
asking you
fuck
stuff
it
anyway.
works.
Don't worry about strangers. You're going to have enough people up in your grill wanting you to solve all their problems and tell them, yes, whether or not they are psychic because they've heard you are. So don't worry about strangers. You're going to have to deal with enough people who know you.
Yeah, Lord and Lady, help me. I made the mistake of letting people in high school know that I could see auras. Morning turned into everybody down the frickin' thing, because in my high school where I was, really nobody found that weird. Like Hinckley, Ohio, our town mascot is a freaking a buzzard, a turkey vulture. Even the jocks believed in weird shit because the whole town was full of weird shit. And so it would just be like, what color's my aura today? And it was everybody.
I
So
was stupid.
just
in high
don't do
school, I
that.
did the clairvoyance thing. Oh, no, honey, he's going to ask you to prom because he's going to dump his girlfriend on Tuesday. Dump the girlfriend on Tuesday. We're going to Ellen psychic. It's the dumbest thing I ever did. Sure, for a while, it was kind of cool. I got a lot of attention. I got to practice. And then it caused even more problems. So, yeah, again, you don't need to go looking for people. They'll find you. Don't go looking.
And don't worry about what do I do with it. Worry about how do I live with it first.
Somebody had their hand up back there. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, here's my quote on your question for the day. All right, so, clairintensity. Do you find sometimes that, like, different limbs in your body are more sensitive than others? I mean,
Clairintensity technically is the fingers. You can get around that. Like, I wrote about it in, here we go. Shameless foot plug. I wrote about it in The Natural Psychic. Sometimes, like, I was at the House of Seven Gables in Salem, Massachusetts. Great place. Everything's covered. You're not supposed to touch anything. But the history and the vibes are amazing there. You can literally sense stuff through your shoes, through the sole of your feet. You just have to focus because obviously you can't touch antiques or, national historic things that are preserved. But you can stand in an area and let your whole body be a receptor. But usually, for most people, it's the fingertips. I'm sure somebody's going to say, "Oh no, it's my nose." Okay.
Well, no, but it makes good psychology. Okay, so the way in which we arrange most of this in our head, we know. Watch a baby. How does the baby know the world? Touch. They grab it, they stick it in their mouth. You're not licking the things for your psychic impression. I
have this right mental image now. Dibs.
And there was a joke in the vampire community that most vampires just like to understand stuff, they stick it in their mouths figuratively. It's all about like the sense of tasting the energy. But again, these are psychological constructs that we're very used to. They're the ways in which our bodies work. If you have no hands and you are used to working in the world with your feet are going to become your main vehicle for that type of perception. And so you can't really divorce your psychic ability from your physical, from your psychological self-being and experience of the world. They all intersect. And again, so if you're someone who simply doesn't have hands, there's a gal who, Jessica Jones, and she has, and I will mangle the name of the disease, all of her joints are calcified and fused, like this from birth. So she's a quadriplegic, but is not paralyzed. She has sensation everywhere. She's incredibly psychic, and would probably be a touch psychic if her hands weren't fused to the sides where she can wiggle her fingers around about a little bit. So most everything is through what she can see, and if she does some things with tools in her mouth to connect to things, so she'll read photos and stuff, because again, physically she's got limitations, but that's how she's learned to work with the world and interact with the world. So whatever your physical interface with the world is going to naturally affect your interface on these other things, how you process those perceptions and experiences.
There's something I do with students of mine. If they say, "Oh, I don't do the clairvoyancy stuff, but maybe I'm very empathic," and they want to read an object. Well, with empathy, the object is held, like here. Some people like to hold it at their cheek.
A lot of people do that.
Like, for example, never read a cell phone. You will fry a cell phone. Don't read. First off, psychics blow up every electronic piece of equipment in their life anyway. So let's say this is the object. If you're an empath, you probably want to just hold it here. Now, if this is someone's cherished ring, they might get a little icked out about you pressing it to your bosom. So we always want to be polite. Just chest is fine. You don't have to get it all down your cleavage, But hold it. I know it's technical. Hold it by your heart and see what impressions you feel. Where do emotions come from? Right here. If you're intuitive, that all comes from the belly. That's a gut hunch. So where do you think an intuitive would hold an object to try to get an impression? At their solar plexus. If you're clairaudient, then it's by, you don't put it on your ear. Again, weird factor, it would probably be like here. So it's close to the ear, And if you're clairvoyant and you see, you can hold it at the third eye. Some people that also icks them out, so you just have to see if the person's open to it. You can always hold it in your hands, focus on it, and shut your eyes and focus on that part of your body. But I have literally done readings where I've seen people do this, or I've seen them, put an object by their ear, or hold it at the belly, or I've also seen people literally put it on the third eye. Again, it's going to be the comfort level, but those are ways to receive more psychic impressions without you think, I don't do the clairvoyancy thing. Try it at one of those other points, because everybody's a mixture of these abilities. So see what you pick up.
Yeah, one of the weirder ways, I do a lot of energy work, and I do energy body readings, and hands and physical touch are very much one of the primary ways. Actually, I often close my eyes when I'm doing readings, but if you ever watch me do an energy body reading or that kind of work on someone, I am often very close and breathing in, like literally pulling in some of their energy through breath. And getting the taste and the feel of what it is like in different places. And again, that's an individual.
It's like you're a vampire.
Yeah, it's like I'm a vampire or something. But again, that's something that you don't just casually do without letting somebody know that this is
Let's
how
talk
it's
about
gonna
socially
work.
inappropriate.
Any type of energy work, even if you are an incredibly tactile person, ask permission before you physically touch the person.
Or their object, like a cherished photo. You go putting somebody's cherished photo on your belly and they don't know you, you're going to get a real strong reaction. So, just be polite.
And
it's important.
One of the benefits of magic and being a magical worker who is also psychic, magic gives you an incredible structure with which to contextualize your abilities, but also to control them and to limit them. When I first got involved in the paranormal community, the vast majority of people who had no fucking clue what grounding, centering, and shielding was, warding, just basic erection of boundaries, that you even could put boundaries up. This was a newsflash to a lot of people. It's very much become now, I've really watched the psychic and paranormal community start to really borrow a lot of ideas and concepts from magic stuff. Many of them tend to be Christian, and so calling it magic still weirds some of them out. Chip Koff is he's Catholic. He's a good little Southern Catholic boy, and would really not be okay with having anything framed to him as magic. And yet many of the things that he does to protect himself, to shield his space, magic really is through formulas of words, actions, items, imposing your will on something, yourself, the world, or others. And whether or not that's okay was the consent class.
The down and dirty definition of magic is mind over matter. Your mind over that matter. That is the truth. You can fancy it up. You can, read 1,000 books. You can say, but what are the mysteries? It's mind over matter. People that identify as psychics are already training. They're journaling. They're paying attention. They're very aware of what their body does. They're very aware of how they react in certain situations. So take someone with those who's already that hyper-focused and take the mind over matter and look what you have. If it's mind over matter, there's actually this whole scientific theory that telekinesis, the ability to move an object, scientifically is defined as the ability to create a change with the mind. What is magic? You are creating a change with your mind. Yeah, it'd be really cool if you could slide a water bottle across the table. And I
But
keep
honestly,
hoping someday. Yeah.
That's magic too.
Yeah. Mind over matter. Your
And really,
mind
why-
over
why
its
cut
matter.
butter
You
with a
wanted to
broadsword?
change, you made it. So again, think about how all this stuff interconnects. They're not separate. They're together. They're hand in hand.
One consideration that I think is important to bring up is for people who are psychic, like right out of the box, like you're born this way and you've got a level of perception that really affects the way, and you haven't had to develop it. Mostly what you're probably spending time doing is figuring out how to turn it the fuck off. When you move into a magical community, there is a level of experience that you have in ritual, in people's sacred space, that is often turned up to a 10. That a magical worker who's really accustomed to that may not realize how it is just like sending your head into just spins. So if you know that you're sensitive and you're coming into like a ritual or something, going through the steps to protect yourself from being overwhelmed by the energy being raised, knowing your limits for like how sensitive you can be, versus how intense that ritual is and what it's going to do to you, how you will feel by the end. Most ritual, you're trying to raise energy, you're trying to, in some way, shape, or form, kind of cross boundaries between ordinary reality and non-ordinary reality. The space within the circle is about creating that kind of thin space. If you're already sensitive and psychic, and you get dumped into that, like you're kind of already in that thin space on a regular basis. Now you're in a thinner space. And if you do not take some steps to protect yourself, not from psychic attack, not from demons, not just simply from too much energy, too much sensation. You are the super taster who's now getting dumped into, the all-you-can-eat buffet. And your experience is going to be different, and understanding where it will be different and how you will make it functional for yourself so that you can participate and not end up on the floor when you're done is an important consideration.
We should probably talk about haunted houses
Yes.
and things that go bump the night. A couple things you're going to need to know about what's out there. Is it a ghost? What is it? If you're a witch, for God's sake, clean up your own mess. Make sure you didn't bring it in to begin with, and if you did, send it on its way. And if you did bring it in, don't call me. You'll just piss me off. So clean it up, get it out, do what you can do. It could be a ghost. It's very possible. And here's what I want you to remember. If you're going into an older home, and oh my gosh, my house is so haunted, I see the same thing over and over again. I just see it. I see it. Okay, that is a post-cognitive thing where you're seeing the past. So if you've got a post-cognitive experience and you're experiencing it by clairvoyance, if you're hearing steps up, you're hearing people going up and down the steps again and again in the old house, post-cognitive experience using clairaudience, you're hearing the past.
Think
So
of it as memory ghosts.
Calm down, do your homework, know your terms, okay? Astral nasties, those are those lovely little things that you created when you were pissed off, stressed out, really unhappy, and you're a magician, so you brought it into life. Number one rule of the Hermetic laws is thought creates. Maybe you created it. Get rid of it. If you brought it in, you get it out. Clean up your own mess. No kidding. Fairies. You could
Don't
have
fuck
a
with
fairy.
fairies.
Yeah, you could have a fairy
Just don't.
infestation. If you have small children and you're teaching them magic, if you're teaching them fairy magic, you and I are going to have a chat after this class. Fairy magic and kids is a bad combination. When I was a very new practitioner and I got into magic to learn how to control my psychic abilities, I thought it would be cool. I'm a witch. I should teach my toddlers. I had 3 kids in 4 years. Yeah, we had a lot of babies. I thought it'd be fun. We should have fairies. I'm a witch after all. Oh my God.
Don't
Oh
fuck with
God,
fairies.
don't do it. If you've got kids and pets, the fairies are attracted anyway. If you've got garden space and a lot of trees, you've got fairies. Please be careful with the fairies. They're not Tinkerbell, okay? It's a whole other thing. If you're getting random things moving around and the house never seems calm down and stuff goes missing, you're just like, God, it's never calm around here. You probably got fairies in the house. It's not an evil spirit. It's fairies. And guess what? If you do have a ghost, let's say it's some sweet Southern lady who went to church every Sunday with her gloves in her purse, and you go, I have a ghost, be gone, Satan, and you start calling a demon, you are going to have a pissed off church lady swinging her purse at your head. So don't do that.
A personal peeve, especially with the paranormal side of things, just because you have a ghost in your house doesn't mean you need to fucking kick it out.
No, it was there
Or
before
send it
you
into the
were.
light. I mean, it has. If you believe a ghost is the remnant of a human spirit, it is still a person, damn it, and therefore has as many rights as you do. Should have the wherewithal to be a polite roommate. But we've got invisible roommates who don't pay bills at our house, and we just set up rules. I mean, I don't kick them out. Kick things out if they are really being problematic, if they have proven themselves to be assholes, if they are predatory, if they are hurting people who cannot protect themselves. Your kids, your pets, your elderly mother who just doesn't know what the heck to do with it. But otherwise, don't presume, one, that you have a right to kick it on to some great afterlife in the sky. I mean, how presumptuous is that? I send it into the light.
There you go.
Who are you to judge that it's ready to go anywhere?
And not all people are nice, so not all ghosts
Yeah,
are nice.
they're people.
So just, maybe they're just grumpy.
But the best thing, start with a conversation. Before you break out bell book and candle, say, hey, I think that there's some, I can tell that you're here. Just be cool. Don't goose the cat again. Cat didn't like that. Don't fuck with me when I'm sleeping. My rule in my house is don't touch me. Generally, the weirdest thing is having fingers dingling around on your skin, and they're not actually fingers, and they're not really there, and you can still physically feel it. And every once in a while, they'll still do that if it's really important. But set ground rules. Have a conversation. Treat the dead people like people.
If you have fairies in your garden, again, we're not talking
fairies.
Tinkerbells, we're talking elementals. If you've got fairies and elementals and land spirits in your garden, people just don't know, how do you know? Okay, this is really simple. If you're working in the garden and you got the and you're like, bugs, and you think it's in your hair, and you start patting down and nothing's there, that happens a lot. If you have flowers that go boom and do triple and double blooms, they change colors. You've got this incredibly lush section of your yard, you don't know why, it just goes crazy. Then you probably have some nature spirit activity. Leave them out.
If you notice lightning bugs and they're not lightning bug colored,
that's right. You just pay attention. You'll know. It's how do you know?
And seriously, if you read up on fairy lore, I am dead serious.
Don't mess.
Half my family, they're Irish. Don't
mess
fuck with fairies.
No, don't.
If you've read my book, Haunting Experiences, there's a place that we called Whitethorn Woods. It's actually Thorn Acres. One of the guys in the band was a self-proclaimed chaos magician. And back then, we're in college, so we pretty much grabbed a label, read a book, and said we could totally do shit. And I was like, I'm pretty sure there's fairies on this thing. It was all thorn trees, and it was definitely dark fae infested stuff. And as long as you didn't poke them with a stick, they didn't poke you back. God bless Barry Tessman. He, whether or not he legitimately did this, he went out to catch one. He comes into the kitchen with some weird shimmery thing in an energy ball going, I caught a fairy, do you want to eat it? No, dude, you just want to put that thing right the fuck back where you got it. He woke up in the lake. They let it, he woke up here, with the water up to here. He just took a walkabout into the loch on the property. He woke up in the lake. I think he was really, really lucky that he actually fucking woke up.
The other thing I want to talk about is if you're sensing something hinky going on your property, it could be ley lines. Ley lines sometimes get soured, and when they do, they call them black dragons. So be like, you have a dragon infestation! Okay, it's just soured ley lines. But I mean, if you think you've got ley lines in your property, you can find that out with dowsing. That's pretty easy to do. Sometimes if you're like, well, I don't know why I'm attracted to this. Witches and psychics tend to go for properties that are on ley lines. Oh no, because we're attracted to the energy. So don't panic if things seem a little bit more in the backyard. If you're really curious, get out the dowsing rod, see if you can figure out where the ley lines are. If things have gone sour for no reason, obvious things you look at. Has there been construction? Did someone tear down trees? And yeah, I get this question all the time. I have to cut down a tree. What do I do? Okay. If the tree is in danger of smashing your house or hurting someone, or the tree's dead or diseased and you have to take it down, take it down. Plant something to replace it. Simple fix. It's not the end of the world. The garden witch tells you it's okay. It's okay. Okay? But take a look at the ley lines. See if you can figure out what's going on. But if something all of a sudden goes sour, look and see what's changed in your environment. It may be as simple as appeasing those land elements. We won't say the F word from Michelle. She gets upset. It may be as simple as planting a blooming shrub, planting something that makes fruit, and and just like to give back to the land. So sometimes it's very easy fixes. It doesn't have to be, an after-school special. You can keep it pretty simple. Okay. Be polite. When in doubt, be polite. Don't assume something's a demon. Don't assume something's evil. Don't assume it's okay to fuck with the fairies. It's not okay. Be very polite. When in doubt, be polite. Know who you're calling. Yes, we've all been young. Yes, we've all done dumb shit. I've done it. She's done it. We've all done it. We've all gone to the backyard. Now, this is cool. I think I'll try this.
I invite all of you.
Yeah. Know who you're calling.
Frolic.
Know who you're calling. There's no excuse. You can be stupid once when you're young. And after that, you're just dumb. So know who you're calling. Do your homework. Read a book. Not the internet, by God. Go to the library and read it. And guess what? You're going to have to look at Celtic history. You're going to have to look at the old fairy tales like Tam Lin. Anybody read The Legend of Tam Lin? Yeah. That'll keep you up at night. I mean, know your history. Know what's out there. Know the history of your land. If your family all hails from Germany, well then by God, start looking up the history of Germany. All the old folklores. Get to know this stuff. If it's Irish, well that's easy. But you may have to dig a little harder for other countries, but look and do your homework. Know what you got on board. Your ancestors, all that stuff, you're bringing it with you to the table. Even if you're like, no, I swear, I'm the only psychic in my family. No, you're not. Trust me, it came from somewhere.
On books, read more than one book
Yes.
by more than one author. Just
And
like
if
you
there's
want
a
to
book
get
you like,
second and third opinions,
look at their
get
bibliography.
multiple opinions on this. Everybody's experiences are different, and even though they are right, they are going to have different ways of approaching it. My way of writing about this stuff may not speak to you whatsoever. Doesn't mean you're wrong, doesn't mean I'm wrong, simply means you have a different way of dealing with it, and you need to shop around and find the things that are going to speak best to you. So in educating yourself, absolutely make sure you don't just read like, Sylvia Brown. I like Sylvia Brown, I'm just going to read Sylvia Brown, and that's all. That's very narrow. You wouldn't do that with any other kind of research.
I have one other thing on my list we can get into before we run out of time, because I think we got about 20 minutes left. Yeah. Sensitive or medium. This is a big one I run into all the time. It is like really cool. People love to add the word medium to their business card. People love to see their mediums. Here is what you need to know. Just because you can see, hear, or sense ghosts or spirits or presences, whatever you want to call them, something that's in this physical realm does not make you a medium. Someone who can sense a ghost in this physical realm is a sensitive. Period.
Yeah, the totally fabricated terms. Psychic medium?
No, not so much.
They made that up for TV.
You can communicate with a presence on the other side, and they can give you information that you can then verbalize to the client for the sake of argument, and they're like, oh my God, there's no way you can know that. And you've got a presence giving you information, there's no way you can know. They are physical person. You can see them, you can hear them, they're a personality. You know they're there. If you are communicating with someone on the other side, not haunting the family room, if you're communicating with someone on the other side and you can take that information and communicate it to the person who needs the information, that is a medium. And let me tell you something. Real mediums don't like being mediums. It sucks. It sucks big time. We don't like to go to the funeral home because God knows who's hanging out there. We're going to hear about it. Think about this now. A sensitive senses a physical ghost that's here. If you're like, oh no, I'm totally medium. This ghost comes in my room and tickles my feet every night. I'm totally a medium. I just know he's there. No, you're a sensitive. And if you just know he's there, what are you using? Intuition. It's claircognizance.
I mean, a classic medium is what we would probably more properly call a channeler now.
Yeah.
Originally, like the whole idea of medium was they were the medium through which these things were able to communicate. Now that gets into a whole level of how many of them were actually just, charlatans and doing prestidigitation, but some were legit. And it was not merely like I could hear the spirit, but often the spirits would speak physically through them.
Right.
And I mean, we have a different toolkit of language for that. We've got possessory states and light trance and, again, channeling and stuff. But like psychic medium, I will always remember the first day, like the first episode I was on with Paranormal State, they're like, well, what do we call you? And I was like, well, shaman, mystics. Yeah, I went through the list of various boxes and labels that you can put going, but none of them really fit. And episode airs, psychic medium, Michelle Belanger. And I'm like, but that's psychic medium. Do you even know what those words mean? But now the thing is it's become part of people's language.
Yeah,
that's the blessing and the curse of pop culture and media culture is language is a virus. It evolves, it mutates, and it mutates because of the way in which we grab words and reuse words. And I think in order to engage in conversations about any of this stuff, some awareness and sensitivity to the fact that we may be using very different language to talk about the same thing. And so when in doubt, when one person is saying clear tangent and one person is saying psychic medium, your best answer is, what do you mean by that?
Explain it.
And figure out where you're on the same page. And, you know, agree to disagree on what language you're going to use, as long as in the end, what you're talking about is practically the same. You know practically you're talking about the same.
I saw somebody's hand up back
all the
there.
way back there.
What would you say, I know we're running out of time, what has been some of your most effective, or what worked for you the best when you were either discovering or enhancing your own abilities?
Writing everything down. I went to Walgreens, went crazy, spent 79 cents, got myself a spiral notebook, and I wrote everything down. I dated it, and then like if I would have like a precognitive dream or a vision, or I would get a bad feeling or something, I'd go, okay, I had a feeling before I knew what the right words were, and I would date it and write everything down. If it would roll out a couple of weeks later, then I could go back and go, oh. There's a story I told last year, and it's a quick story, it won't take up a lot of time. When I was a bride, and my children were small, anybody who's a mom goes to this phase where everybody you know is having babies. Your sister-in-laws are having babies, your sisters are having babies, all your friends are having babies, and I would have this dream of this baby girl that would show up, and she'd crawl in the room, and I'd go, hey, where you going? And I'd chase after her, and she'd giggle, and she'd crawl out of the room. Now, my husband and I were able to go, let's have a baby in June. June sound good? So if I had this dream, I was white knuckle flighting. I'm like, oh my God, we're pregnant again. And because every time I would have this dream, somebody would announce they were pregnant. So I stood over, okay, saw the baby girl this day, and I kept track of it for like 6 months, and I started to figure out every time I had that dream, somebody is going to announce they're pregnant within 2 to 3 weeks. I was like, oh, thank God, it's not me. It's somebody else. And the dream was always the same until one day it changed. And the dream, she was crawling through, and I went to get her, and all of a sudden the scene changed. She was sitting in front of me, spelling out a name with alphabet blocks, and the name said Elizabeth. And then I woke up, and I'm like, whoa, that's different. Wrote it down. A couple months later, one of my sisters-in-laws announced she was pregnant, and the dream kept recurring. And I'm like, where is this other baby? Obviously, someone else is coming. Where's this baby? Well, I had another relative who hid their pregnancy until like they were 7 months pregnant. So when those two babies were born really close together, so when the first baby was born, the father was a graphic designer, so this birth announcement, and he drew this birth announcement of a baby boy spelling out his name in alphabet blocks. And I thought, oh, that must be it. Boy, the name was wrong. And then the second baby was born. And we went to go see her in the hospital, and I said, what's her name going to be? And they told me the first name, and I was like, oh. And I said, what's the middle name? Elizabeth. But because I kept track of those dreams, because I journaled about them, I was able to put the clues together. The best thing you can do is journal. Keep notes. Keep notes. I felt, I saw, I heard, I knew, and date it. And then when they manifest and they play out, you go back and you look at your notes and you start to get your own clues, because for everybody it will be different. It's just like learning a tarot deck. Certain cards mean certain things depending on who's reading them and where they fall, and that tarot reader has to figure that out over time. The same thing for learning about your psychic abilities. You have to let them show you what's happening. The only way you do that is to keep track, journal, and take notes.
Journaling helped me a great deal, but I never learned so much as when I started working with small groups. Now, we all have experiences and perceptions that we are not comfortable talking about, even to our closest friend. And sometimes it's a level of trust in ourselves, sometimes it's a level of trust in the abilities, sometimes it's because those abilities are so fucking weird that you just don't want to sound like the crazy person. But once I was comfortable enough with a small group of people and we were all mutually comfortable talking about our experiences, and we trusted one another's objectivity enough to know that we weren't like, kind of like filling in the blanks or like, we're playing that game I hate on the internet. I'll believe your bullshit if you believe mine. Being able to talk about how I experience things and hearing other people talk about how they experience them, honestly and openly, and then being able to compare where those things intersected. And those aha moments where you have someone say, well, I don't think this works like this for anybody else, but for me, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, that exact thing happens for me too. I thought I was the only one. And then you realize that actually kind of everybody has that happen. So being able to talk with some people who go through similar things, and I'm not talking about, go see a guru. I mean, just when you're all on equal footing and willing to be open about what it is you're experiencing, that is incredibly instructive.
And if you don't have a support group, do the best you can on your own. Not everybody has a support group. Not everybody has supportive relatives or a supportive partner. So just do the best you can. And when you come to places like this, you can talk and you can exchange ideas. The internet is a place where you can make some of those connections as long as you understand that the internet comes with a huge caveat. Beware the participator. Like, spend a lot of time really getting to know and vetting those people that you may be talking to. But you can absolutely, and the best thing with that, if you can get on like something where you can physically talk and hear one another, most of the fakers and assholes on the internet will never get on like Ventrilo or Skype where you can hear their voice, because there's so many other layers of things that they're faking that hearing them, they're not willing to let you hear that person that they are. The lady in the pink and or it was burgundy or whatever it is.
Yeah, there was someone over.
Yes, ma'am.
My job is I'm a massage therapist, so I get people all the time. Sometimes it's the only time I get to see that person. So what would your advice be for like that message that you get for them? Because I just write it down and let it go, because if they're supposed to get it, they're not.
We talked about this in
Yeah.
class. It depends on how well you know them and whether or not they'd be open to it.
I mean,
Sometimes it's the only time I'm ever going to see them. And the one time I had it was so strong that I had to tell her, she never came back.
Okay, then I guess you have to ask yourself, is it worth scaring the crap out of them and losing them as a client or a friend?
That was when I realized that I needed to write it down and let it go, because there are sometimes, now if they come back a second or a third time and they actually have a conversation, usually I can segue into it.
Yeah, starting the conversation and having like the building blocks that bring you up to the point where you could go. So sometimes actually my first question would be, if you're a massage therapist, are they coming just purely for the physical aspect of massage, or do they understand, or within the context of your massotherapy practice, is there some sort of energy work that you are known to do or that they may understand is a thing?
We actually advertise my business
Okay.
as Reiki massage, IT massage, or regular therapeutic massage.
Yeah.
I don't do fluff and buff.
Okay, well, Reiki massage isn't psychic massage.
But there is context within Reiki that when you're clearing energy or releasing energy, that sometimes there's information or emotion wound up within that energy. So it gives you context to at least begin a conversation of, with Reiki, sometimes you can pick up things with this energy, and would it be okay if we talked about some of that above and beyond just the physical massage? Like that, it at least gives you a leg up to start. Yeah.
If they're asking for an energetic massage, then I would say, yeah, you are. But if they're not, then I would. It's no different than because I shake hands all the time, people hug me all the time, I block 99% of everything. Every once in a while something gets through. I don't say a thing, that's not my job. It's also very manipulative and rude, and I have them at a very unfair advantage. When you've got somebody laying on a table with just a sheet and you're picking up information, you have them at a really unfair advantage. So I'm not inferring that you're not ethical. I would just say be very, very careful what information you're sharing.
Should I just keep journaling that and sending it off Because I'm not gonna give these the chance to tell some of these people these things.
I would.
I would never.
Yeah.
With what you just described, I'm not gonna chance it, I'd let it
Yeah, I
go.
probably
If
wouldn't.
it's someone you're close to and you've known them, like Michelle said, and you can work up a dialogue and talk about it, I think that was fine. Otherwise, let that go.
Yeah, because I used to be the worst. I would just blurt shit out and not realize that it was a psychic impression.
Yeah.
And like only after the fact have stuff like that. And that's another part of like understanding how your ability works to segue from that is realizing that some of the things that it's not simply that you're observing physical reality. There's, going, wow, is that a new pacemaker? And then have the guy at the gas station I worked at look at me like,
How do you know that?
I don't, yeah, outside of the ones that have come specifically for energy stuff, I don't know that there's a context that would be,
I think your idea of letting it go is probably the best thing to do for those people.
yeah.
The only thing is
I think I would
Yeah.
do that.
And if you feel compelled, then like add to the letting it go the asking the universe for them if this is important information, ask the universe to have them come upon it in some form.
This lady in the green had her hand up for a while.
Yeah, and then behind you. Yeah.
But there is exceptions to the rule. Sometimes you know, even though it may not be appropriate, sometimes you just know you have no other choice but to say it. Open your mouth. Because sometimes you just have to say it.
In response, I would say, you could ask about it. Like, are you open to hearing a message that I think I just picked up for you? Or,
Yeah.
yeah. Or, wait till
Well,
they're
they've got you
dressed at the
naked.
end.
Are you open to some information? Now they have your attention. Hello. I'd like to talk to you about our Lord and Savior, the Morgan.
Not to be rude or anything. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
And how do you deal with the fact that you have that at an unfair advantage?
That's when ethics and honor comes into play.
You know.
If you're going to be doing psychic readings, if you consider yourself a medium or a sensitive, you damn well better be honorable and ethical because you already have an unfair advantage. So then you have to ask yourself, what do I consider ethical and honorable behavior?
For me, I think about it as a
But it's not as a medium art, it's not as a reading, it's
Mm-hmm.
meeting someone and hearing and knowing something that gives you an advantage over them. But you don't want to act on it because
My best answer would be, when I was at a psychic fair years ago, there was some reader, I guess, having a bad day, and I was teaching a class, and someone said, is it ethical to predict death? And I said, no, why? Well, apparently somebody was having a bad day and told every woman in the class that her boyfriend or husband was going to die in a flaming car accident. It was a mere red car that hit his car. Obviously, someone had some issues. So that brings up the fact that you never predict death, hear me out, because let's say you're wrong. And someone says, I have a horrible feeling I'm going to die. And you go, oh, yep, I think you're going to die. What if they decide on their way home, let's say they've been battling depression, they go, yep, you know what, I'm taking myself out. And they take out the family of 4 in the car next to them. You have to stop and think about what you tell people. You have to stop and think, what kind of damage could this do? How could it mess them? What if they're fragile? What if they have an emotional problem? And sometimes your best bet is to say nothing at all. You're not God. Now, Raven Caldera brought up, if it's someone you know, perhaps maybe consult a divinatory tool or check with 3 other readers and see what that tells you. But if it's a quick meet, you don't know this person, something pops in your head, I would probably let that go.
Yeah, as an example, I've got 2 unfortunate things that I can zero in on with pretty unerring accuracy, and they're not easy or good conversations. Survivors of sexual abuse, cancer. Those are not conversations you can have casually with anyone. It's actually why I do not do gallery readings. The last fucking thing you want is for, everybody's at the gallery reading and they want, the great Michelle Belanger to pick up whatever for them. The loudest thing to me in that room, if there is someone who's a sexual abuse survivor or someone who has cancer and they don't know about it, those are the 2 loudest things. And those are things I cannot fucking say a thing about. One, because
It's cruel.
are you going to call, how do you even, just don't even, especially in a group full of people, no matter how 100% sure you are with that cancer, the terror, anxiety, and stress, even if you're right, that you will put that person through. And so knowing that there are just some things that there is no way to have that conversation, even with your closest friends. And there have been a few instances, very rare few instances, where I have made with an awful lot of conversation, dialogue, and caveats of this may be wrong, but I really think that with those health problems you're having, dear friend, you should probably go get like these things checked out. And it's incredibly difficult. With some of the levels of sensitivity that I have, I engage the world like a fucking psychop with gloves. Like, it really feels like I am, when I do a convention like this, people are like, what are you picking up from me? And I'm like, I am in a convention, I'm picking up nothing. If I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing at something like this, I am so shielded that I can't tell what the fuck's going on. And I don't want to, because I don't want to be just doing casual readings on everybody that I come across. And especially because, like, a pagan convention like this, there's magic and energy and shit flying everywhere. It's already a thin space. All the rituals are making it a thinner space. And God knows what the fuck is going to pour out of my mouth if I'm not guarded. And so much of the work that I've done has not been to develop my abilities. It has been learning how to dial them back, so that I am not like standing up in the middle of a group and just bard's tonguing the shit out of you. That never ends well. Not for the bard and not for the group.
We're almost out of time.
Yeah.
There was a question again over here.
The cancer thing, I had that happen recently. She's my employee and a dear friend, childhood. I told her for a month, I felt it, brain tumor. And what I told her was, she kept saying she had some symptoms, I'm not feeling good. I said, you really should go see your oncologist, and you really should, I'm feeling maybe you might have something going on in your head. And she's like, what's going on in my head? I said, I don't know what, I'm just telling you. And then, real quick, group reading, the girl came out and she says to the girl who works for me, she was holding something back, she wouldn't tell me. And my girlfriend, who self-professed resident witch, says, yeah, there's a lot of times she won't tell you things because she believes in free will, and there's things that shouldn't be told to people because you may walk out and make a decision that she just put that into your head.
Right. Yeah, I will end it with, I don't do paid readings. I won't do readings for hire, and here is why. I have been on TV. People know me as a psychic. Some people put so much importance on the words that come out of my mouth. It is an unfair level of importance. So even if I talked out of my ass, which I'm not going to do, there are people who will absolutely take that as gospel. And I refuse to have the responsibility of infringing on their free will. Because I know they're kind of giving some of that up just by their idea of the pedestal of psychic medium on TV must automatically be awesome and perfect. And no, just be cognizant of the level of responsibility you have when you have perceptions. Think about what impact talking about these things will have on a person, on their life, their belief, on how they're going to sleep at night. And like with medical intuitive stuff, the most I will do is what a good friend would do. Is like, you seem like you're a little run down. If they're complaining to you, obviously, about being sick, fucking tell them to go to a doctor.
Yeah, I mean, again, think about it. If you're like, well, what should I do? What should I do?
Go to a doctor.
What if someone's going to drop a bomb on you and ruin your day and give you sleepless nights or terrorize your life, and maybe they're wrong. Just try to put yourself in the person's shoes. Be ethical.
Yeah.
Be honest. Be as kind as you can. It's a big thing with being a psychic or a witch or a magician for that matter. Your honor and your honesty and whatever you keep as a personal ethical code should literally carry you through almost any situation. You shouldn't have to go, oh gosh, what should I do? You should know. What's the most honorable thing I can do here? What's the kindest thing I can do? What's the smartest thing I can do? And go from that.
One more personal rant on that. If you are an energy healer and somebody has got some, and you're like, well, I can heal that for you. Also make them go to the doctor. Yeah. Like, if they're going through traditional medical therapy, it will not hurt to also do energetic stuff with it with their permission. But for fuck's sake, the last thing you want to do is have a friend who's got, they think migraines, you're doing energy to heal it, and they have a brain tumor. Like, you do not want to put yourself or anyone you work with in the position of thinking that magic, psychic, energy stuff is going to fix something that very ordinary physical real world stuff could have addressed. Both of them, they go hand in hand. Deal with the physical stuff. Actually, there's three things. Deal with the physical stuff, the psychological stuff, and the energy stuff. Allow them to be a whole unit, never exclude one or the other. So
Any other
that's
questions?
my
Yes, we're
great
about-
opinion.
Yes, ma'am.
I noticed that I can't touch like certain people or even certain stones without getting sick.
Yeah, so don't do it.
Don't do it.
No, like honestly, like
People are abusing themselves, or sometimes they're out their hands and stuff. I mean, how do you?
There's a way around that. You just, I see me after class. I'll show you how to,
Yeah.
I call it the psychic shuffle. There's a way you can dodge people wanting to touch or hug or shake the hand. See me after class, I'll help you with
yeah.
that.
And aside
It's
from
easy
the
to do.
facile answer, start paying like if you can pay attention and track like what things seem to do that
Yeah.
to you, and kind of like get an idea of what it might be. It might be that sometimes it's just that person's energy doesn't play nicely with your energy. I often will just stick my hands in my pocket.
Mhm.
Leather jacket is really handy for that. People find you far too intimidating to touch.
Or you can do like one of my kids does when people try to hug him. He goes, "Oh, don't touch me, I'm diabetic." And they go, "Oh," I'm like, "Stop that." So, a little humor goes a long way. "Oh, I think I've got a cold, sunburn on my back, touch me and die." Whatever works. You can avoid, there's
Yeah.
ways around.
You can fix an awful lot of shit with humor.
Yeah, you really can. At the end of the day, humor is your saving grace, especially when you're dealing with psychic and magical stuff. Sometimes if you can make somebody laugh, you're going to get a hell of a lot farther. So keep that in mind. And we are out of time.
Thank you all for being with us on Periscope. If you have any more questions, feel free to tweet me or Michelle. I'm going to go down here so we don't get anybody's faces accidentally. And so Michelle on Twitter is Satanic-Keen. Thank you all for being here. You can watch the video after the fact. We'll post links to it pretty soon. And we'll be periscoping some more classes tomorrow. But we may be done for the day. We'll see. Thank you all for being here.